Hi, everybody. Welcome to Day of Security and welcome to Cybersecurity Beyond Code, Unconventional Paths and Narratives. Thanks for joining us today. And today we're going to be sharing with you a bit about each of our unconventional yet impactful paths in cybersecurity. And we do hope that you come away with inspiration or maybe even some aha moments. So let's get started. I want to introduce to you our panel. Today we have Nicole Mendolera. She's the founder and CEO of Cybersecurity. And Nicole has over 15 years in risk management, privacy, and in the cybersecurity space. Also joining me is Melissa Ramseur, who is a vice president in the Chief Information Security Office at Citi, with 2 years within cybersecurity and over 15 years of management experience. And I today am your host, Dawn Butler. I'm a vice president in the Chief Data Office at Citi with over 25 years of experience in technology and cybersecurity. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Melissa. Let's get started. All right. So today, audience, we want to share with you a little bit about our background first so you can start to see how unconventional our paths have been. And when we say unconventional, maybe unexpected or something you may not have thought about. And so we were hoping to shed some light there for you and to give you maybe something you hadn't thought about, some hope in terms of like different ways you can move in the cybersecurity and technology space. So Nicole, would you share with us a little bit about how you entered the field of cybersecurity and particularly the part that was a little unconventional for you?
Absolutely, Dawn. Thank you. So I started pretty conventional. I started by getting my computer science degree in college. So I had my first coding class and decided that was not for me. But at the time, there really were no other options. It was that or go into IT. And I knew I wanted to do cyber from the very beginning. So I stuck it out and hoped, maybe after 2 or 3 classes in coding, it would become my thing. Well, it did not. So that was certainly not for me. But during that time, as I was getting my undergrad, ended up getting elected as the financial VP of the Student Association at the university. And that actually allowed me to connect with university folks. And I was offered a job after I graduated as an internal auditor. So I knew I didn't want to code. They offered me a job and said, hey, not only are we offering you a job, but we'll pay for you to go to school. So I went on to get my MBA. During my MBA, I took my first accounting course, fell in love with it, absolutely loved it, and decided that's what's for me too. I love cyber, I love accounting. What do I do with it? So ended up getting a dual degree in my MBA and MS accounting, and went on to get my CPA. Loved every moment of it, and I didn't want to settle. So I could go for a job. I knew I didn't want to be an accountant. I knew I didn't want to be a coder. So can I find a job that actually allows me to do both security and finance? So I ended up getting a job with Ernst & Young. They had a perfect role for me. It was in the risk management practice. At the time, none of the big four had any type of cyber practice. It really was more focused in risk management. So ended up doing projects like business continuity, system implementation, and a variety of other things. But most of the time, the first few years, I spent doing IT audit. So IT audit definitely pulled in my auditor in me. It pulled in my security because you're looking at the security of the systems before the financial audit team comes in. And you have to have a good understanding of the business. So it used my MS accounting, my business, and my cyber. It really was the perfect job for me. About 4 years into it, EY, along with the other big four, decided to build out a security practice. It started to become a lot more popular. So I moved into their security practice and helped them build out their security program management practice. And what security program management is it ultimately is working on assessing an overall security program at a company, understanding their business, understanding their goals, and building out a roadmap to get there and helping them with the implementation. So that's something I did for almost 15 years at EY. Love what I did, fantastic company, great experience, and decided I wanted to try something a little bit different. So I went into a startup company called Blue Lava, who focused on building out a security program management software. And I thought, if I'm able to build a software, maybe I can reach more people, maybe it can help more people. So went there. While I was working for them, I had a nonprofit reach out to me, and they said, hey, we had a breach, we need help, we don't know what to do. So I came in for a couple of days, helped them out, helped them contain the breach and, fix what needed to be fixed. And about a week later, they reached back out to me and said, hey, do you know what GDPR is, and are we compliant with it? And I said, absolutely. So GDPR is a privacy regulation I have a lot of experience with. And I said, well, as far as whether you're compliant or not, I wouldn't be able to tell until I come in and do an assessment. But let's get your CEO on the phone. Let's get a meeting together, tomorrow, and I'll take you through it. So built out the slides to take them through what GDPR was. But the night before the meeting, I couldn't sleep. I was up in the middle of the night thinking about the presentation and, what I wanted to say and how I could potentially help the nonprofit. And in doing so, I realized, if they do want to go in the direction of compliance, it's going to take more than a few days. It's probably going to take weeks or if not months. So if they're going to have to hire someone to do it, why not me? So it was 3 a.m. in the morning and decided, hey, let me start my own business, because why not? So I filed the paperwork, started my own business, had a conversation with them, and ended up getting hired to do some privacy work for them to help them become compliant. And that was the start of building my own business. So as of last July, I took a variety of different classes to see, is it the entrepreneurial life for me? Turned out it is. I took a variety of classes to understand more aspects of it. So some of the sales, some of the marketing, and a variety of things. And now I am the CEO of my company. It's called Cybersecurity.
I love that, Nicole. So many great gems within your story. For example, the pivoting, right? Like, oh, I think this is what I want to do. I don't know for sure. And I think it's so important for us in our field. And it's one of the things that actually is the beauty of the field that we're in, is there's so many opportunities to pivot and find your special niche, because everything's so connected. And I love too that you brought up learning, right? You're like, I want to be an entrepreneur. Let me go learn what that is. So that's really important as well for us. Thank you, Nicole, for telling us that part of your story. So Melissa, let us know how you entered the field of cybersecurity and how unconventional that has been for you.
Thank you so much, Dawn. And Nicole, your story is amazing. I don't know if mine's as amazing as yours, but it's definitely unconventional. So went to college, went to Howard University. It was a wonderful experience. I did not go to school for any computer science or anything like that. I actually thought I wanted to be a physical therapist. Continued on with my studies. And when I got into my junior year and more deeper into my courses, I was like, oh, this is really not what I want to do. But my mother was like, well, you've already spent 3 years now, so we're not about to just change completely. So I added on a minor in business management, and then graduated. And from there, I worked in Nordstrom as a manager of like the men's clothing department for about 5 years. And then I moved into retail banking, and I worked for Bank of America retail banking, and I also worked for Wells Fargo. After being a branch manager, I did some risk reviews and audit reviews for branches in a specific division or area, right? So for me, I'm in New Jersey. So it was like a Southern New Jersey area. We had various branches, and I would go and do like risk assessments for those branches if they were audit ready, and help them get audit ready. But I knew I didn't want to do that too much longer. And I was like, I really want to work in HR. And so I went back to school while I was pregnant with my beautiful daughter there, who's now about to turn 14. Went back to school, got my MBA with a concentration in HR. And then I was able to completely switch and work for a company called Expert HR, where I did training for their compliance program, right? So they were selling HR compliance to various businesses. Some people know like LexisNexis. So it's a sister company of LexisNexis. And I worked there for 7 years and really enjoyed it, but kind of hit a glass ceiling because they're a UK-based company. So then I shifted and started working for another company, building out their customer success and third-party management program, right? And so from there, I built that out. And after about 6 months, I was really bored because they didn't have a lot of clients, right? So it wasn't very busy. And I'm used to being very busy. All right. So the department was set. The clients that we had were great, but it wasn't a high amount of clients because their sales were much larger, right? So they'd have $2, $3, $4 million contracts. So you're only closing a small amount of deals a year. But I was looking in the meantime, and I'm like, how can I package all of this together? And I was actually talking to one of my close friends, and she was like, I think my husband has a position that you'd be great at. And I was like, your husband works in cybersecurity. There's nothing that I can do. There's nothing I can do. I'm not the person. I'm like, I'm looking for more like HR, like, CHRO or compliance manager. Like, that's really what she was like, I think you can do it, Melissa. I was like, I don't know, girl. So her husband gave me a call and was like, all right, let me tell you about this position. And it's more risk-based, right? So so there's a couple things I do, which we'll get into later, but one big portion of it is around risk, right? And gathering risk information from various regulatory requirements, as well as internal audits for the vulnerability assessments team within our cyber information security office. So I was like, I'm not a technical person. Like I really was kind of walking myself back from it. And I was like, I am not a technical person. Like I don't know if I can do this job. And so he was like, well, tell me what you do. So her husband's like, tell me what you do. So I was telling him what I do, third-party management, onboarding new clients, review, compliance stuff that I know from within banking and everything. He was like, you could totally do this. He was like, but why don't you interview? He was like, first you need to apply. He was like, I'm going to set up some interviews. So he set up some interviews. Well, the recruiter set up interviews, and they weren't with him. And the team loved me. And that's how I got in cybersecurity. Very roundabout.
No,
and I absolutely love it. And there is not a minute to be bored. There's not one second.
It's always changing.
Yeah.
Tech and cybersecurity, it's never a boring moment, never a dull day. I love that story because from the physical therapy, okay, to the business person, to working at Nordstrom, to HR, like how many ways have you shifted? It's
Right.
beautiful.
Right.
And it really speaks to not just in technology, but just as humans, as employees, as people with professional careers, how we can open ourselves up to new things and take even the boredom as a signal. There's nothing wrong. It's just time for something else. And what else can that be? And to go searching for that. So I started, my path might be more conventional than you guys own, now that I think about it. But I started in cyber as a business analyst. Now, I had spent 10 years prior to that doing software engineering, database admin, and operations management. So I've been in technology my whole career. I moved into cyber as a non-technical person, as a business analyst. And I've spent the time that I've been in cybersecurity as a business analyst, project manager, program manager. And so I don't do anything technical anymore. We'll talk about that later, a lot of time doing the opposite of that, more people engagement and things like that. And so, yeah, my story is maybe not as roundabout, but definitely I've done a lot of shifting and pivoting over the years. In a way too, Melissa, like you, I got bored. Or like you, Nicole, you're like, I tried this. This is not it. I gave it a good old college try and I just need to do something else. And the key, I think, that both of you expressed was education. Sometimes it takes you got to go back to school. And at other times you have to be open to someone else pointing out something that you hadn't seen in yourself, right?
Right.
And that opportunity and being open to that. All right, this was good. So I want to talk a little bit about, because we've seen where you've come from and where you are today. Tell us a little bit about a day in your life, Melissa. What does it look like for you?
A day in my life currently is going to be about 75% of my time is spent on risk management, whether it's regulatory requirements, regulatory body audits, or internal audits, or various country requests for proof of evidence that we are doing, we meaning my company, Citi, we are doing what we say we are doing. So those requests come in fast and loose, left and right. Every day it's like, okay, we need this tomorrow. I'm like, oh, okay, tomorrow, got it. So, every morning I may still be, pulling in and working, gathering various information from various departments for something from the previous day. But I can pretty much say that every day there's new requests that come in, notifications of new audits that will be starting. The other portion of my day, the 25% of my day or week, will be around third-party management, whether we're onboarding new vendors that we're working with, or we're renewing new contracts with vendors, and then records management for, the records that we, generate within our department, properly, of course, cataloging those items, making sure they're properly updated, annual attestations for records. But 75% of the day is really around risk. And with that being a global team, you are, of course, waiting on responses from people in, Hungary or China or, someplace else. So you have to be as flexible as you can. Sometimes I do need to get on a call at 9:30 at night to talk to someone where it's 9:30 in the morning. It's not every day, but you just have to be flexible to be willing to do that.
Sounds good. What about you, Nicole, as CEO of Mendo Cybersecurity?
Yeah, so most of the time I focus mostly on my clients, but I wear a lot of hats. So from a client perspective, I am a fractional chief information security officer at 3 companies. And what that means is for smaller and mid-sized companies, they know that security is important. They know that they need a leader in security, but they either don't need someone full-time or can't afford someone full-time. So I split my time amongst different companies, and I might be 25% of my time at one company, 10% at another, depending on their needs. So right now I am the CISO at 3 companies. One is a healthcare company and 2 IT, including one that actually just went public this past week, an AI company. So that's been an interesting journey. In addition to that, as I mentioned, there's other projects that I work on, but I wear a lot of hats. So I had to teach myself how to do marketing, had to teach myself how to do sales and meet with people and try to understand their needs and how I can help with them. I have to be my own accountant and manage my finances. I have to manage my own team. So I work with an intern right now and plan to expand soon. So I'm responsible for my own team and operations. So it's a lot of different hats. Over time, as the company continues to grow and as our client base continues to grow, I will be able to hire some people in those areas. But for now, I'm doing it all. And I actually love every minute of it. A little bit too much work, but love every minute of it.
That's great. I think if I'll tell a little bit about my day in the life, but that commonality, I think, is doing a lot of different things, right? That's just sort of how it is. I'm currently managing a team, so a good part of my day, most of maybe 75% of my day, I'm on meetings, and I'm working on grassroots initiative type of work. So there's a lot of meetings about where are things going, how to implement requirements, what tools are going to be used, things like that. Again, nothing extremely technical, though dabbling in technical things, right? So it's drawing on my skill set from the past as a software engineer and as a production support manager. I've been doing technical writing, something I never thought I would do. It's but even in a company the size of Citi, if you're working on grassroots initiatives, you're going to, when I say grassroots, I mean you're building something from the ground up, like a program or a portfolio. You're gonna sort of be a jack of all trades, sort of like Nicole is describing. And so I spend a good bit of time doing strategy, project work, process improvement, risk, collaboration. My team is all over the globe. So my mornings are always trying to catch up with them, what's going on. And I would say that I really love managing a team. I've done it before. It was not as good, but this time has been really, really good. I'm loving the coaching and the guidance and problem solving for them, right? Sometimes they're like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? And you'll be surprised how much capacity you have when you're in that position to be innovative and things like that. But I really value and I encourage collaboration. It's like, I don't know everything. What do you guys think? You know? So that's a little bit about how my days are. So audience, we have a poll for you. Want to take a quick little pause, and we're gonna have a poll. We would like to know, where are you in your cybersecurity journey? So if you would take some time and answer that poll, we'll just keep on talking and then we'll show the results from there. All right, so let's keep going. So Nicole, you mentioned your time at Ernst & Young, right? It was EY, right?
Yep.
Yes. And your job as a fractional CISO, et cetera. Can you, based on your experiences, what's your approach? Give me 1 second, everybody. The poll is in my face. I don't know if it's happening to you guys. All right. So on your experience, Nicole, what's your approach or the skills that are most critical for you in being an effective communicator, which I'm sure you have to be as a fractional CEO, and you're engaging with your clients the way you mentioned, and even a translator when it comes to the cybersecurity to those business layman type of terms?
Yeah, Dawn, I think you nailed it with the translator. So I'm constantly working with more technical people, and I'm constantly working with business people, and they can't always speak the same language. So we have to be the translator. We have to be able to take the tactical work and the technical work and translate it into business terms in a way that somebody can understand. So for me, whenever I do a presentation or do some type of discussion, I ask myself three things. Number one is, what is the key message I'm trying to get across? What am I trying to communicate? Two is, why should the audience care? Every time I look through something, I always ask myself, why should they care? Does it matter? Why are they going to give me their time? And if I can't answer that question, then I shouldn't even be having the conversation, right? So explaining to them why it matters to them is pretty critical. And then the third part is, at the end of it, what action do I want them to take? So what am I trying to get out of them, whether it's, for them to be more informed on something, for them to take a particular action. But those are really the three different things I always ask myself. And many times, if you can do it in a form of a story and give examples and give case studies, it resonates a lot more with people than just theoretical ideas or theoretical things that people may not have any experience with.
Yeah, that's good, because I think one of the key things in technical roles or in cybersecurity roles when you're engaging with business, because we're support for business in most cases, they got to understand what you're saying, and you got to understand what they're saying. And so that storytelling is really, really key, and something that I definitely, everyone in the audience, if you've not explored that, definitely explore that. There's so much resources out there for that to teach you how to do that. And like Nicole said, knowing your audience. All right, so let me share the results of our poll. Where are you in your career journey? We have about 20, this is interesting. We're like equal. 27% for early career, experienced professional, and transitioning into cybersecurity. We have a student and then someone that says they're other. All right, so we have another poll. We're interested to know, what soft skills do you think are critical for a role in cybersecurity, everybody in the audience? Let us know what you think from those options. And if there are any that are not listed there, please just type them in the chat. We'll come back to the poll as we go along. So speaking of soft skills, because I don't know if everyone in the audience has noticed, most of what we do every day is not coding. I'm doing a network, I'm setting up network infrastructure, or I'm like restarting a database or a server or building a server, whatever. we're doing things like telling a story, collecting information about regulation, audit, things like that, a lot of engagement. So Melissa, what soft skills do you use most often in your day-to-day work, and why is it so critical for your role?
Thank you. So I would definitely say relationship building and kind of like people management are soft skills that have helped me tremendously. And I think it's really, especially with the relationship building, and especially when working with auditors and, whether they're internal auditors, different regulatory bodies, it's really important to build a relationship. And because they're people too, right? And they need to do their job, right? And if you are coming across, which is what I've seen, if you're coming across as difficult to work with, always pushing back, not willing to give or at least compromise on certain things, then they're going to make it even harder for you, in my personal opinion, right? So it's like, it's like going to the DMV. Hi, how are you? Where should I go? Or, what papers I need to fill out, right? Then they're going to be like, oh, well, go over there and figure it out yourself. Or, sure, if you come over here, I'll take you to the right department. So it's the same thing, even if we're getting on a call that may be difficult, setting the stage and setting a good environment will give you more leeway if you need it, right? If you build a good rapport with whoever you're working with, I do find that, as my mom would say, you catch more flies or bees with honey than vinegar, right? So that relationship building and people management, I think, are essential.
So Nicole, I'd love for you to chime in there because you've been an auditor. So
So I love being an auditor. I had so much fun with it, but I gotta say, I've been audited before, and it is not fun. I do not like that area. I would prefer to audit people than to be audited. So sometimes I do give the auditors a hard time. It's not a good idea, but I do. But as an auditor, we're very understanding. We're there to help as much as we can. But we're also limited in what we can do.
Yeah, it is. But I do agree. I think, Melissa, that just in general, like at work, like you said, we're all human, right? Everybody's coming to work with their stuff, and creating environments where people feel valued and things like that. It just helps things move along more smoothly. All right, so let's talk about how, as professionals in non-technical roles, we can contribute to improving overall cybersecurity strategies and outcomes. Nicole, would you like to go first on that one?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Dawn. So when it comes to technical people, many times they're focused in one particular area. So you have a network admin that's focused on network security. You have a coder that might be focused on app development. You have a vulnerability advisor who's focused on vulnerability management. But when it comes to non-technical roles, many times we're positioned in a way where we understand the full program. We see things holistically. So many times we are actually the ones that build the strategy. Right. So we are the ones that help drive the cyber strategy because we see all of the components, not just one. So I think that that's really an important part to see, that we do get to contribute quite a bit to the strategy of the organization and the cyber program.
I couldn't find my mute. I tend to agree. Melissa, what are your thoughts?
I definitely agree. Specifically, I was working with the service managers, I was working under the service manager for the vulnerability assessment team. And the service manager is the person that's, or at least within City, is the person that's pulling together, working on risk, third-party management, training, development of the team, certifications, things like that. So I definitely, and that manager was someone who used to be technical and was no longer technical. So I absolutely agree with you, Nicole, that you're seeing things more holistically. If you're working for a specific company and they have said what the main strategy is, and now you're looking at how you can implement that strategy within your department, it is easier to do that when you're not in the thick of the thick of it, right? And you're able to, see the forest from the trees, right? You're able to really look outside of the daily minutia of various roles and say, okay, I get it. We need to have people trained. How are we going to do that? What seminars are we going to send them to? Or how are we going to stay within risk appetite? What are some changes we can make across the board? So I think you are 100% right. Definitely looking at the future.
It's interesting that we all sort of have, everybody audience, we did not collaborate on these answers, but my answer is sort of similar too, in that one of the major challenges for cybersecurity is the intersection of that security and business operational effectiveness. And so as you get into cybersecurity, you'll hear about how we implement security along the development life cycle and things like that, is because typically cybersecurity was done at the end. And it's normally like, halt, you got to stop, that's not going to go in. And the business is like, what? We need this tomorrow. You should have had this before. And so I believe that people that are in non-technical roles can contribute a perspective about how changes can impact policies, your processes, and your tools. And because, like Melissa said, you're not in the technical weeds. So sometimes you'll see things that those people that are in the weeds that can't. And so what I want to encourage all of you to do, if you are looking into a non-technical role in cyber, you have some of the skill set that Nicole has or Melissa has, or I have, you definitely understand that your perspective is valuable. Like, it is. You're seeing something different than the people that are in the technical weeds. And so, share that perspective. It's valuable and it does make a difference. I love how we have the same answer, just in different ways. All right.
So Dawn, I want to switch things up on you. So I want to ask you a question this time. So what are some of the challenges that you face bridging the gap between your technical and non-technical teams?
So I say language, and you touched on it a little bit earlier, Nicole. Language, speaking the same language and understanding each other. And I want to point out that it's not really necessarily a matter of technology as in like what tool you're using or coding language or whatever. It's technical subject matter expertise. When I say technical, this is what I mean. So subject matter experts, technical people, can sometimes just speak their language. Like if you are a techie person and you're talking to your friends, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, right? And so it's like they're speaking a foreign language. And so I think lingo and acronyms get used a lot. And I recently had experience in my recent transition where I'm in a room, I'm like, it's like they're speaking Japanese. It's English, but I don't know what they're saying. And so my big learning from that was never assume anyone's level of knowledge. Never. Try your best to get a sense of their knowledge level so you can start from there with them. And don't feel bad about asking, did you know that? Or if I'm saying something, just let me know if you don't know what I'm talking about. Stop me in the middle, ask any questions. And especially in the case of cross-cultural and global teams like, Melissa and I talked about that we have, it's really, really important because even our slang and our colloquialisms as Americans, they may not know what that is. So don't hesitate to explain to the other person or ask them, do you know what that slang word that means? And you'll be surprised how much they appreciate sharing that culture with them and the connection that creates for you. So that's my answer to that. I think that's how you bridge the gap. Just don't assume people know everything. Ask the questions, let them know, you're open and we can learn together. All right, Nicole, you pulled that one off. Oh my goodness. All right. So speaking more about non-technical and soft skills and things like that, Melissa, do you have like a memorable moment where your contribution, I think you've told us some stuff already, but as a non-technical role has had a significant impact on strategy or initiatives? I think you've told us, but let us know again.
Well, I again, I'm newer to cybersecurity than Nicole and Dawn, right? So it'll be 2 years that I've been in the cybersecurity field, specifically with Citi come September. And when I started September, right after Labor Day, it seems like day 2, my manager was like, okay, these are the things I'm going to want you to work on. I'm like, oh, okay. So it was definitely like trial by fire. It was not, it was not it was like drinking water through a fire hose. There was no refreshing. It was right in the face immediately. But one of the things that I think I was successful in, or with helping the team with, was that next January we were notified that we're going to be going through an internal audit. And in doing the record management review, which I had taken over for a teammate that had left. And it's funny, I reached out to the teammate and I was like, hey, can you help me? And they were like, I can't. And I was like, huh? Like, you just left. They were like, I don't remember any of that. I'm like, it was like 2 weeks ago. And they were like, I don't know. It's like gone out of my brain. I was like, oh, okay. And they were still within city. And I was just like, they're not going to help me. So I just had to help myself and really took every available training that was within our learning management system. And then we also have classes in Udemy, and taught myself. And in doing so, in reviewing the records, I was like, hey, when's the last time we reviewed our process manuals? And I did mini audits on all of the process manuals that we had within our team, which was great because when we got the internal audit review notification, all that work had already been done. So we knew exactly where we had a deficit, and we knew exactly what we needed to work on. We had corrective action plans already in place in regards to my company. If you already know of an issue that they also find, that works in your favor versus, an issue being found that you didn't know about. So I considered that a win, especially being very new to cybersecurity and just new to city as well. I felt like that was a win. We did really well on the audit. And so I was really proud of myself. I was really happy because I was like,
that's huge.
But I thought it was good.
No, that's huge. That's huge. So I want to share a memorable situation or win for me. And it seems simple, but it was huge. I said just now that I became a technical writer. I remember I was like, when did I sign up for this? So it's documentation. Like, it's a huge thing. In my recent role, when I joined, the documentation really needed a lot of work. And at one point, I've spent a lot of time beefing it up over time, like completely revamping it, reformatting it, making it consistent with the tone and all this stuff. I don't even know if I had this in me until I had to do it. And along with my team, of course. And when it was published, it received so many kudos. Like, people were really happy with it. Like, oh, we needed this. This is so much better. I can follow it and things like that. And so for me, that's a big win, because as a former software engineer, and if any of you are software engineers, like, we don't like the code. We don't like documenting, sorry. Like, document your code. But over the years, as I supported other people's code, and I had to be a manager and all that, I really learned the value of documentation. It matters. It really does. Like, Melissa, you just described the situation that you had. If that stuff hadn't been documented and all that stuff, you would have been completely out of the water, like just gone. And so that's a takeaway, everybody. That seems simple, but it's really, really a big deal, documentation. All right, so let's look at the poll. Which soft skills do you all think that are very important? Communication came at the top. Interesting. I agree. Critical thinking, yes, definitely. Collaboration and teamwork, problem solving, adaptability and flexibility is a serious one. And if you listen to our career journey, you've heard that, adaptability and flexibility. No one chose the leadership skills. Interesting. All right. So let's just keep going here. We have one more poll that we want you to answer. And it may not apply to everyone that's in our audience today, but for those of you that are transitioning into cybersecurity, we want to know what's been your greatest challenge. So let us know what that is in the poll, and we'll come back to that later. So the reason we have that poll is because we want to talk next about pivoting and transitions. You've heard our stories. We've done a lot of that, all of us. And so, Nicole, do you have any advice for individuals who are looking to transition into non-technical roles in cyber, or maybe even contribute their current non-technical position to something in cybersecurity?
Yeah, so I would say I have people come to me all the time and say, hey, I want to get into cyber. What area should I go into? Which one is the highest demand for? Which one pays the most? And I say, listen, you're not going to make it if that's the way you think. Because at the end of the day, you can't force yourself to do something you don't like, right? So if you are not a coder and you put yourself in that position, it is going to be a miserable few years until you realize this is not for me. So the way that it works is if you are good at what you do and you have a passion for it, you will learn it, you'll pick it up, you'll excel in it, and therefore the money will come. So my advice is follow your passion. If you want to get into a non-technical role, do it. There's many ways. We've just three of us just showed you different ways of approaching it and how we were able to make it successful. So follow your passion.
I wholeheartedly agree 100%. Melissa, what are your thoughts on that? Your advice?
So I absolutely agree to follow your passion. So thank you for that, Nicole. I would also say, sometimes we're still trying to figure out what our passion may be, right? But if you're like, I think this field intrigues me, what can I do differently to kind of just get my foot in the door, just even get the door cracked? I would say for me, every job that I have gotten, except for one, has been through using my network, right? And people think it's like, oh, well, it's easier said than done. It really isn't. It's as easy as I'm saying it is. Use your network, right? And my mom would always say, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. So if you don't open up your mouth and ask or just have the conversation, you will never know. And it may not be someone may have a position or something at that moment, but you will be surprised how things turn back around, how people come back around and say, hey, I remembered you for this, or I remembered you for that. So I would absolutely say, use your network. If you've gone to college, use your college network. It doesn't matter if you didn't just graduate, like, oh, I'm not class of 2023, so they're not going to look or help me find a job. No, that's not true, right? So, go to the school that the class, if you went for computer sciences, even if you didn't, reach out to the dean of the other college and see what positions may be available. Definitely use your network to help. And then also make your resume less job centric and more skills focused, right? Because your title may not fit with a specific job title, but all the things that you're doing in a job that you're able to transfer those skills, point those things out. Put the jobs to the bottom, put the proper skills up to the top to help as well.
If I could just add one thing to that, if you don't mind, Dawn. Mm-hmm. So I have to say, out of all my clients right now that I have, none of them have been because of my amazing marketing, mostly because I don't have amazing marketing. Every single one of them have been through my network. Either I know somebody or I know somebody who knows somebody, but it's all been through networking. So I know we hear it's important, but the reality is it actually is, and it does produce. So definitely a good point, Melissa.
It does. It really does. And it actually aligns a little bit with my advice I wanted to share. And I was thinking from the aspect of you're already in a non-technical position and you're trying to get into cyber. And I think one of the things you can do, I literally am saying this, ask around the office, ask around the room, find out where the cyber work is being done in your organization. And once you do that, you got to take the time and make those connections, have those conversations. What are they doing? What's going on? How your skills can contribute to that project, that work effort, or whatever. But of course, if you're in a different position, it may not be as simple as, hey, I want to work with you. You'll probably need to talk to your manager. So you want to take the time every year during your career development conversations to say, this is the desire I want to work in, I want to move in. And when you have that conversation, you have to have it ready. Like, okay, I know this is happening over here. I would like to be involved. Can you help make that connection for me? You call it a stretch assignment. People love that. I want a stretch assignment because look, they want you to come and do your work every day. So anything outside is stretch, okay? So you got to be ready and willing to put in that extra work, and you do that. And so you want to then try to connect how the time in cybersecurity also, like on that project, will help improve your current job. That's going to help you get them going, right? Like, hey, I see how this can help this work that we're doing. And so, yeah, that connection, you got to set up informal chats with the people in that area. And I do it all the time. And sometimes I don't even know for sure if that's what I want to do. I just feel like, ooh, that sounds intriguing. Let me talk to them. Yeah. And it might just be one conversation. I realize, yeah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
All right. So let me present the last poll results for everybody. And these are for people who are interesting, for people who are transitioning into cyber. Your greatest challenge is balancing the transition. That's true, because I just said, if you're doing a stretch assignment, you're doing your own job, the stretch assignment, and you got a family or, responsibilities, things like that. So that would be definitely, I could see that being a big deal. Networking and finding opportunities. Look, 3 of us are here. Add us to your network. We're going to give you that information later. Acquiring technical skills. That's a big deal. If you decide to go technical, non-technical, like Nicole said, you may have to learn how to market and to sell, because now you're doing something different. And understanding cybersecurity concepts. Nicole, do you want to share anything, any kind of encouragement on the understanding cybersecurity concept part for challenge-wise for people? Like, give them some hope. I think it may not be as hard as they think.
Absolutely. So here's the biggest thing that is super challenging for a lot of people I talk to, especially those coming out of school. They say, listen, I can't get an internship because I don't have experience. Well, I don't have experience because I'm just coming out of school. So it's this loop that just, you can't go anywhere with it. So for me, the way that I was able to transition, because they did the same thing to me. They said, no, we don't want you to transition into cyber. You don't have experience. You have to prove yourself. Well, how am I going to get experience without having experience? You can't. So what I ended up doing actually is I bought myself a book. It was a CISSP book. I didn't plan on getting the certification. I ended up doing it, but I didn't plan on it at the time. And it was just learning the basic concepts. So I learned the basic concepts through the book. It was an all-in-one CISSP, preparing you for the exam. It was fantastic. I'm happy to share with anyone who needs it. But it gave me the basics. It actually allowed me to understand some really technical jargon that I hadn't in the past. So yeah, I think just teaching yourself, getting certified, proves yourself so that you can get that first job.
And I like what you said, because it seems like there's the pressure sort of off. You're just learning, right? Just learning. Yeah.
And well, you're right, because I literally got myself for Christmas Cybersecurity for Dummies, and it may, please don't think that, that book is beneath you. No, people at me that I had never heard before, but I know I'm organized, and I know I'm a good project manager, and I know I can pull things together, but I also wanted to be aware. So, every weekend, Sunday, I just take 30, 40 minutes and go through the page, work my way through the book. And I am also planning to take it's funny, I talked to Dawn about this. Am I going to go with a C-Risk certification or a CISSP? And I'm thinking more C-Risk certification, but nonetheless, like Nicole said, just continue education at your own pace. Don't put pressure on right? It's not like you're being pressured to do it, but just going through that book alone has allowed me to have better conversations, to know more specifically what I'm asking for, right?
Yes. It opens up your mind and expands your vocabulary too. Okay, so on the screen, I just wanted to share with everybody some examples of non-technical domains and roles that you can, we touched on some of them today already. Take those, put them in your back pocket when you start looking for roles. If we've inspired you in some way to say, hey, I don't have to know how to code. I don't have to know cloud security. I can do all these other things that contribute to cybersecurity in an impactful way. And so we have about 4 minutes left. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We'll try to respond to them. But the last thing I want to share with you is stay in touch with us on LinkedIn. You know, you can scan the QR code there with your phone and find us, or we're on LinkedIn as our names. We're not hiding. So feel free to send us a connection request. As we talked about earlier, the network is so important, not just for jobs, but for expansion of your learning, for opening up your eyes to seeing new horizons and things like that. Increase your network. All right. And I think, let's see what's going on in the chat. Anything that's happening there?
Just some great additional conversation. And Tabitha Senti also said Cisco Skills for All was a great resource when learning the basics for her.
Oh, I like that, Tabitha. Yeah. And look, with all the AI stuff going on and cloud, like I know I need to learn some things. I'm queuing up some learning for myself, and I'm only doing it just to expand my knowledge. I'm not going into AI, at least I don't think.
You
Like
never
I
know.
might think about it and be like, ooh, that tickles my fancy bone, you know? And next thing you know, I'm an AI somebody, you know, prompt engineer or something. So you just never know. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And I guess, Melissa, Nicole, any last words before we sign off?
Thank you all for joining. And, you know,
Thank
just
you, everybody. Bye.
bye.
Take care.